you are not too sensitive. You are just letting the most emotionally intense person in the room borrow your nervous system like it is a public resource. And the part that should bother you is this: they do not even have to try. Your body is already trained to treat other people's mood as a weather alert. Quick thing before we get sharp with this. We are building toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps this channel reach the people who actually use this information. If this hits a nerve, tap like too. That one click tells the algorithm this is worth surfacing. Alright, if you have ever walked into a room calm, then left it tense, and later realized nothing even happened, you have experienced what psychologists would call emotional contagion, but that phrase is way too polite. What is actually happening is a status and safety negotiation. Your brain runs automatically. This is not just about setting boundaries, it is about who gets to run the control panel of your threat system. Most people never connect these dots, so they keep blaming themselves for overreacting. But if you understand the mechanism, you can interrupt it in real time. And I mean real time, like mid-conversation, without becoming cold or fake or performative. Here is the first insight that changes everything. You are not reacting to their emotion. You are reacting to what their emotion implies about your social safety. Think about it. When someone is irritated, withdrawn, sarcastic, or explosive, your body does not just register anger, it registers an implication. Something is off, and I might be the target, or I might lose status. Or I might lose access, or I might be blamed. Your nervous system is not a philosopher. It is a prediction machine built for social survival. There is research showing that our brains track social threat using overlapping circuitry with physical threat. The anterior cingulate and parts of the insula light up with social exclusion like pain. Translation: your body treats a moody person the way it treats a loose dog. Not because you are weak, because for most of human history, social friction was not awkward, it was dangerous. Now here is where it gets interesting. The people who set the emotional temperature are often not the ones with the most power. They are the ones with the most volatility. Volatility forces everyone else into a monitoring role. You start scanning micro-expressions, tone shifts, pauses in text messages. Now you become the emotional meteorologist, and the moment you do that, you have already handed away authority. Notice the pattern here. You do not become controlled when they yell. You become controlled when you start predicting whether they might yell. That anticipation is the leash. So the real question is not, how do I stay calm around emotional people? The real question is, why does my brain assign their emotional state higher priority than mine? Which brings us to the second insight. What you call empathy is often a misfiring of your salient system. Your brain is constantly deciding what matters. In neuroscience, salience is basically priority tagging. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but in your nervous system, the squeaky wheel gets your attention, your muscle tension, your cortisol, your strategic planning. Emotional intensity is loud. Loud gets tagged as important. If someone is anxious, your brain treats it like information. If someone is angry, your brain treats it like a warning. If someone is disappointed, your brain treats it like a moral verdict. And then you start adjusting your behavior to manage their state, because that feels like problem solving. But it is not problem solving, it is appeasement dressed up as maturity. Let me show you what I mean with a simple example. You are in a decent mood. You text someone something normal. They reply with one word. K. Your stomach drops. You replay what you sent. You craft the next message more carefully. You decide whether to double text. That is not you being thoughtful. That is your salient system handing the steering wheel to the other person's mood, because their mood created uncertainty, and uncertainty is expensive. Your brain hates uncertain social threat more than known social threat. Known threat can be managed. Unknown threat must be monitored. That is why you obsess. And here is a micro hook you should hold on to. In a lot of relationships, the person who creates uncertainty controls the relationship, even if they are not dominant in any obvious way. This is why emotionally unpredictable people feel powerful, not because they are strong, but because everyone else becomes strategically weak. Third insight, and this one is uncomfortable. Sometimes you let other people set the emotional temperature because it gives you a hidden payoff. I'm not saying you enjoy it. I am saying it may protect you from something scarier, taking full responsibility for your own internal state. When someone else is the reason you are stressed, like you do not have to face your deeper fear, which is that your calm has to be self-generated. That is a heavier job than most people admit. Blaming the room is easier than becoming a thermostat. There is a concept in psychodynamic thinking called externalization, where inner conflict gets assigned to the outside world. They made me anxious. They ruined my day. Sometimes true, but also sometimes a convenient story that keeps you from noticing how your mind seeks threat, how it rehearses worst-case scenarios, how it clings to vigilance because vigilance feels like control. Now, do not misunderstand me. People can absolutely be toxic, but even with toxic people, your leverage is not controlling them. Your leverage is controlling the assignment of meaning. Because meaning is what triggers the physiological cascade. So if you want to stop letting other people set the emotional temperature, you do not start by being calm. You start by changing what their emotion means in your mind. And that takes us to the practical mechanism. I call it the 3-level read. It sounds simple, but it is surgically effective. Level 1, the display. What are they showing? Anger, anxiety, coldness, excitement. Level 2, the function. What is that display doing? Is it requesting reassurance, demanding compliance, testing status, discharging stress, avoiding intimacy, creating distance, pulling you into a caretaking role? Level 3, the ownership. Who owns this state? Not who caused it. Who owns it? When you do this, something subtle happens. You stop treating their emotion like an order, and you start treating it like data. Most people never do level 2 and level 3. They stop at level 1. He is mad. She is stressed. Then they immediately jump to self-blame or self-adjustment. That is how temperature gets set. Let us apply it. Your boss is tense in a meeting. Display, tension. Function could be I am under pressure, or I need control, or I am signaling urgency. Ownership, it is theirs. That does not mean you ignore it. It means you do not swallow it. Now watch what happens in your body when you silently label ownership. You create a psychological boundary without saying a word. Your nervous system gets the message. This is in the environment, not in me. This is a known regulatory skill in some therapy models, like mindfulness-based approaches and parts work, but here is the twist most people miss. You can do it in conversation without becoming detached by using a very specific internal sentence. I can care without carrying. Care is relational. Carrying is physiological. If you have ever felt exhausted after someone else's bad mood, you did not just care. You carried. Now, before I give you the next piece, I want you to notice something. Even if you understand everything so far, you can still get hijacked in one situation, when someone's mood is aimed at you, even indirectly. The sigh, the eye roll, the loaded silence, that is where it gets sticky. So here is the fourth insight. The emotional temperature is usually set by a game, not a feeling. In game theory terms, there are moves that force a response. In relationships, mood can be a forcing move. Silence can be a forcing move. Disappointment can be a forcing move. It makes you respond, either explain, fix, apologize, chase. And the person does not even need to consciously intend it. The pattern can be learned over years. If they show displeasure and you rush to stabilize them, you are reinforcing the behavior. Their nervous system learns. When I spike the room reorganizes around me. Your nervous system learns. When they spike, I manage. This is operant conditioning, but social. Now here is the part that will either save you or irritate you. The only way to break a forcing move is to not be forced, not with drama, not with a lecture, with a non-response that still preserves dignity. That sounds vague, so I will make it concrete. You need two scripts, one internal, one external. Internal script: this is a bid for regulation. I am not a vending machine. External script options spoken calmly. I can tell something is off. If you want to talk about it directly, I am here. Or, I am open to this conversation when we can keep it respectful. Or even, I am not going to guess. Tell me what you mean. Notice what these do. They refuse the guessing game. They refuse the chasing. They move the interaction from temperature to language. Most people think the opposite is coldness. It is not. It is adulthood. Now we hit the mid-video shift because everything I have said so far could still be interpreted as defensive, like you are trying to build a bubble around yourself. But there is something beneath all of this that most people miss, and if you get it, you stop feeling like you are fighting the world. The deeper layer is this. The goal is not to be unaffected. The goal is to be self-willed. Being unaffected is dissociation. It is numbness pretending to be strength. Self-led is responsiveness with choice. So instead of asking, how do I not feel what they feel? Ask, how do I feel what I feel first? This is the mechanism behind emotional leadership, interoceptive priority. Interoception is your ability to sense your internal state, tension, heartbeat, breath, heat in the face, sinking in the stomach. When you get hijacked, your attention goes outward first. Their face, their tone, their vibe. The trick is to flip the priority. Inside first, then outside. Because the first person to name their internal state in their own mind is usually the person who sets the temperature. Let me make that practical. When you notice someone else's mood pulling you, do a 3-second internal scan. Jaw, shoulders, breath, belly, then label one word. Tight, sped up, collapsed, heated. Not a story. A sensation. That one word does something important. It moves activity from limbic reactivity toward the prefrontal cortex. It is basically a tiny act of neural distancing, and it buys you enough space to choose your next move instead of reflexively matching theirs. Now another layer, because I promised you new insights, not basic mindfulness. There is a phenomenon called co-regulation. People regulate each other's nervous systems constantly. The common advice is, do not let people affect you, but that is biologically unrealistic. Humans are coupled systems, so the real skill is not insulation, it is selective coupling. You decide when to couple and when to decouple. Selective coupling is what high-level negotiators, emergency responders, and good therapists learn. You let enough connection in to understand, but not so much that you become destabilized. And the decision rule is this: couple to information, decouple from arousal. Information is what they are saying, what they want, what the problem is. Arousal is the heat, the pressure, the urgency, the chaos. If you couple to arousal, you become reactive. If you couple to information, you become effective. You can literally test this in your next tense conversation. Ask yourself, what is the information here? Then ask, what is the arousal here? Treat them as separate channels. That separation alone stops other people from setting the temperature because temperature lives in arousal, not in information. Now we can synthesize this into a framework you can actually use. I call it the thermostat protocol. 4 steps, fast enough to do in real life. Step 1. Ownership. This is in them, not in me. Again, not who caused it, who owns it. Step 2. Interoceptive priority. 3-second scan. Name one sensation. Step 3. Channel separation. What is the information? What is the arousal? Decide to respond to information only. Step 4. Forcing move refusal. You do not chase ambiguity. You do not negotiate with mood. You invite language. Say it directly. I am here if you want to talk. I will continue when it is respectful. If you do these 4 steps, something almost eerie happens over time. People who rely on temperature to control you either adapt or they drift away, because the system that fed them stops rewarding them. And if you are thinking, okay, but what if I live with them, work with them, or they are family? Then you need one extra principle. Consistency beats intensity. One dramatic boundary speech does not change anything. A calm, repeatable pattern changes everything. Your nervous system learns it. Their nervous system learns it. The relationship recalibrates. You are not trying to win. You are trying to train the interaction. One last point that ties back to the beginning. The reason other people set the emotional temperature is not that they are stronger. It is that your brain thinks harmony equals safety. And sometimes it did. But adult life demands a different equation. Safety is not harmony. Safety is self-trust. When you trust yourself to tolerate someone else's discomfort without immediately fixing it, you stop being controlled by it. That is the real upgrade. Not becoming colder, becoming harder to hijack. So here is the challenge I want to leave you with. The next time someone brings heat into the room, do not ask, how do I cool them down? Ask, what am I about to do to earn relief? Then pause and choose a response that you will respect tomorrow. If this changed how you see your relationships, tell me in the comments what kind of person usually sets the temperature around you. And remember this sentence because it is the whole video in one line. You do not need to control the room when you stop renting out your nervous system.